And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 6 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Ket.
And joining us tonight is a glutton for punishment, Ashton Ray of 360 Performance. Ashton, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being had.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime. And a newcomer to the hot seat is Caleb Causey of Lone Star Medics. Caleb, welcome to the show, brother.
Howdy, folks. Good to be here, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
It's really good to have you. You know, we're talking about gun stuff on this channel. We've had a couple of specials with professionals in the medical industry to some capacity on the show before, but it's always something that we feel certainly needs to be covered a little bit more. So we're happy to have you. So Caleb, being the newcomer to the show, we always like to start off by getting our guests an opportunity to introduce themselves. So Caleb, for the folks at home and those listening on podcast, who the hell are you, bud?
That's a great question. Are you asking that because I'm on the wrong show, or are you just really want to get deep about who Caleb is?
I mean, the night is still young. This very easily could turn out to be the wrong show.
Okay. No, that's an old joke. We'll have to look that joke up too. Who said that one? But no, man. Again, thank you guys for having me on here. It's a pleasure. Who am I, man? I'm just a regular dude. I'm married to a smoking hot wife. I've got a 2.5-year-old that all of a sudden hit a brick wall about 2 weeks ago. The terrible twos. We thought we were going to duck that and hey, it's not so bad. I was wrong. He is hitting that terrible twos, and everything is no, with a question on his face. I'm like, who told you no? Who taught you the word say that? But anyway, so we're dealing with that, with everybody staying home and stuff the past several months. I've learned to, it's been a blessing to have family home and healthy. I'll say that. But yeah, I'm just a regular guy. I run a business, and I go around. I'm fortunate I get to travel around the U.S., teaching people what little bit about medicine I know, and try to help them, survive something if it goes bad for them. But I get in fights with the wife every now and then, like everybody. We travel and see family and hang out. Tomorrow night we're gonna hang out with family too, and go get it's Cowabunga Wednesday. So with the in-laws, so I'm just a regular guy. I try to run a business, and yeah.
What the hell is Cowabunga Wednesday?
I don't know, but I'm down.
So Cowabunga Wednesday. So the wife, she is a long story short, when she has to work late because she's a meeting events coordinator, and so she'll put on usually before COVID about 400 events with her work a year. So she's doing 1 to 2 events a day sometimes, and so when she has to work late for these events. She was, that means the boy and I are here by ourselves. And she's like, hey, can you handle feeding him? Can you handle him for the evening by yourself? Being a new dad. I'm like, yeah, it's no problem. So she's the one that can, she's a phenomenal chef and cook. My God, she's amazing. I'm nowhere near her skill level. So the boy has been raised at hey, I eat at this level. Then dad cooks, and it's like, oh, we're having Cheerios again without milk. So Cowabunga Wednesday or Cowabunga Tuesday, whatever night of the week is, Cowabunga is just like, I guess the boy and I are going to be up by ourselves tonight. Cowabunga Wednesday it is. And since then, it's been turned into me, the father-in-law or the brother-in-law and his boy, and just kind of a guy's night, but family. And so now we start, because we start posting it on social media, on my personal page about it. Now all my friends that have sons want to join us for Cowabunga dinners, and it's just we just go to dinner at 4:30 in the afternoon so they can get back and go to bedtime. So it's just father son time basically.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm just a regular dude that does the Cowabunga Wednesdays.
Awesome. And you're not just a regular dude. For the rest of your life, you are a medical training badass guy. So
I don't know about badass.
It literally on the resume that you sent in fake podcast land said medical training badass guy. That's what I received. So.
That's Ashton, and he was in rare form. No, I would say I'm very much still a student of medicine. in my career. I've been a medic and involved with field or tactical medicine for over 20 years now, but I still don't know it all by any means. I actually learn a lot from my students more than I teach. And if you want to get real deep and philosophical about things, but yeah, I've been a medic for over 20 years, one way or another, and still very much a student. I never said I was a good medic, but like to think I'm an okay instructor or teacher at it.
Ashton, what's the refund policy for that Eventbrite shit? What the hell, man?
None. Sorry, you're in. You're done.
We're in. So, like most of the good ones, Caleb is being humble. Every good trainer, dude, says always a student, right? So that's not something surprising to come out of your mouth. Let's talk a little bit about your background in medicine and in training and what you bring to the table from an experience perspective, because I do happen to know that it's pretty extensive. Just a
sure.
brag, just a bit.
Sure. So, long story short, I started off in my medical career, if you want to call it that, or the adventure, when I was in high school. So I started off with the Scouting America, or Boy Scouts America back then, what they call themselves. And I was with the Explorer Post. And so every weekend, I would go spend time on the ambulance, and I would spend literally from as soon as school was out on Friday until Monday morning, I'd be on the ambulance, and I just wouldn't stop. I loved it. It was a great, adventure. Then after that, I ended up in the Army. I did 4 years of active duty as a combat medic. I was stationed in Germany for 2 of those years, where I deployed twice to the Balkans. The first deployment was to Albania, Macedonia, Kosovo, those types of places. The first deployment, though, I got attached to the 2nd of the 505 82nd Airborne Division. So I found out what airborne infantry was, and fell in love with taking care of grunts. I thought, this is great. This is what being a soldier is, and going out and hunting these bad guys down over there in Albania and doing reconnaissance missions, in the mountains and stuff. And it was really cool. We had good days and bad days. Not going to lie. Came back to the States. I was with the opposing forces unit out of Fort Polk, Louisiana. So we were really, really good at being really, really bad guys against the good guys before they go off to war. So think of a big mock-up war game. We were the bad guys. We were really good at it. And then I got on with the fire department and kind of found that niche, or found that connection, I should say, that I lost from the military, the brotherhood and the camaraderie. I found it at the fire station. And I even found a different camaraderie at the police department when I kind of finagled my way onto the SWAT team. They kind of had a quasi-selection tryout process thing, and they invited me back for the rest of the day for the training evaluation. And I kind of got hooked there. So for 6 years in the fire department, as a volunteer firefighter EMT, running 911 EMS and the fire department and the SWAT team. Let's see, I worked for a few private military corporations, or whatever they're called this week, whatever they're calling themselves, but mainly stateside work, nothing really to write home about. Let's see. Then in the end of 2008, 2009, went to paramedic school, and every state's a little different. It's usually about a year-long program, about 13, 14 months, depending on which state. Somehow they crammed it into 10 weeks, and I thought it'd be a great idea to sign up for that class. So signed up for the fast track program. I thought I'd just knock this out real quick, and I was wrong. It makes the top 5 worst decisions of my life, which says a lot for those of you that know me. I made it through the course. I never said I was very good at it, but let's just say that don't ask what my GPA was. That's what I tell people in class. It doesn't matter what my GPA was. Just know that I made it through the course. That's all you got to worry about. Came back home. Somebody said, hey, let's, why don't you, Bill Davison with TAC Pro Shooting Center. He's a firearms instructor and runs his training center out there. And he said, well, started shooting 3-gun when I got out. And he said, why don't you teach the RSOs a class? And okay, I pulled an 8-hour class out. Or actually what happened was where I went to paramedic school, they ended up recruiting me to become an adjunct instructor. So they spent 2 weeks teaching me adult learning styles and how adults learn, how to teach, which is how to learn and stuff. So it's really cool. That was the advanced class that I probably could have used 10 weeks earlier, adult learning styles, because everybody in that university down there Texas A&M, they're all professional students. They're all under, mid-20s or young 20s, and they're all professional students. It's literally all they've done their entire lives. And I came back almost 30 years old and tried to figure it out on the fly, and it was difficult. It was a long, hard fight for me with academics. But Bill said, teach RSOs first aid class. I did, and that was 2008-ish. And I like to say that, well, we all know what happened then with real estate, because I was working with my mother in a family real estate firm and our business, and real estate stopped paying for the medic lifestyle, and I had to pick a new job. So what better time to start a new business than 2009? But so fast forward to today, I'm very fortunate. I get to travel all over, teach a lot of classes, and I'm still very much a student. Like I said earlier, I don't know it all, but so it's the background has been both, fire and EMS, the SWAT team, not as a peace officer, just as the medic, the military side of the house, on a dive team. So a little bit of different avenues too, here and there on the private sector too, that, it's not just all EMS,
Wow.
That's probably the most impressive resume we've had.
Yeah.
On the show so far.
Let's not ruin it. It's just, hey, yeah, that'll be all for tonight. This guy knows. That's great.
Folks, we're going to pause for a commercial break while Kent and I reevaluate our life choices.
Yeah.
But real quick, Kent, because, he's not just here for adult supervision. Ashton, how have things been going for you lately, man? Why don't you give everybody a quick update on what's new with in the 360 performance shooting world?
Well, you know what? Unfortunately, earlier this year, Kent, you and I tried to hook up and tried to get something off the ground. Then COVID kind of put the brakes on that for us. But here lately, the past 5 or 6 weeks, things have really opened up. Been fortunate enough to be able to travel around a little bit and do some stuff closer to home. Get some classes in, get some people doing some things, and it's been busy, it's been crazy, but things are really, really I'm really pleased with the way things are going right now. To be perfectly honest with you, and Caleb, I need you to put a vice or something on your head, but I first met Caleb, what was it, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that, in Tennessee at TACCON, back when TACCON was still at the mothership, back when that was still open. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get into one of the courses that he was doing, because medical was one of the big holes that I had to fill at that point. And there were a number of fellows down there. There were a number of fellows doing medical stuff there, and I tried to get into all of them. And what was really interesting about what Caleb was doing is you were doing a block. You and Carl Wren were doing a block.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the force on force thing. Yeah. Yeah,
it was force on force medical. And I was truly fortunate enough to have been through a couple of medical blocks there over the course of that 3-day event, where I had at least found some bases beyond being a deep rescue stretcher bearer on the ship back when I was deployed. Not for nothing, that wasn't bad, but it was a completely different take on things, right? And one of the things that I found out was that, hey, this Caleb guy's really pretty good at this, and Carl's probably smarter than 99% of the people out there in the industry. And it was really kind of cool seeing what they came up with. And Caleb and I had talked a little bit before that class. You and I had run into each other and chatted a little bit. And then I got picked to be op for the class. You had me and my buddy Jay from Protective Shooting Concepts. You had us as your bad guys for the class. And the brief for the exercise was really pretty simple. He said, when I give you the signal, I want you to shoot everybody with these simunitions or airsoft guns or whatever we were using. And we said, okay, we can do that.
And they did well.
Yeah, everybody got shot. but it was really cool, and that was really my first my first glimpse into seeing what this guy was capable of doing. And actually, we went to dinner that night or the next night, I don't remember which, and I was already talking about bringing you up, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And you know, things have changed a lot since then for both of us. But you know, we've finally been able to connect now and you know make this happen. Apparently there's a lot of moving parts to this, but either that or I'm just not that good at it. But it's probably the latter. But you know, things have been really cool for me. Been very busy here lately, and I'm pretty pleased about finally connecting with Caleb to get this stuff on the road.
Awesome. So when Ashton refers to this stuff for those playing the home game, Caleb is coming here to Pennsylvania to teach 2 separate days worth of medical. He's teaching. Well, why don't we let him tell us what he's teaching and when? October 3rd, is it right? The weekend of October 3rd.
Let me double check notes. Yeah, October 3rd and 4th. October 3rd is going to be the range response class. Ashton, is that right? Did I get it right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
And then the range response class that Saturday, and then on the 4th, it'll be TAC Med EDC. So the range response is a 1-day class. It's kind of geared for match directors or range owners, range safety officers, firearms instructors, or even the weekend plinker. You know, if you spend any amount of time on a shooting range, indoor or outdoor, we'll actually talk about how to identify and treat those injuries that are kind of common to indoor and outdoor shooting ranges. Kind of, you know, that very specific niche. And it's not all just talk about tourniquets and chest seals and gunshot wounds only. It's, hey, what do we do about, hey, someone reaches over to pick up a pepper popper and reset it on an outdoor range, and they didn't check it, and, hey, they get tagged in the back of the hand with a snake. Or, hey, the spider, you know, spider bite. Or, hey, it's an indoor range, and they catch some hot brass in their collar of their shirt. We also cover the gunshot wounds and stuff like that, and the catastrophic stuff. But then it's also a little bit of administrative side of the house where we discuss, hey, what are our contingencies? It sounds good in our head, looks good on paper, sounds good when we talk about it, but when we really, you know, nuke it out and try to role play it out, we realize real quickly, like, hey, we've got a lot of big holes that we didn't see before. And so the FTX, the final training exercise, we do that, and so it's always a lot of fun going to different ranges around the U.S., indoor and outdoor, to see who's doing what, and some of it's kind of spooky and scary, as we can all imagine, what it's like at some of these ranges, and some of them are really dialed in people. They care about their customers and the safety, and some of these ranges, there's, you know, I get there and I feel bad. There's like 2 or 3 things that changed, and other than that, you guys are really dialed in, got your act together, which is nice, because I now want to travel to come shoot at their range because I know it's a little bit more professional. You know, the days of us seeing shooting ranges saying, "Hey, we're not going to touch anybody. We'll wait till the medics get here." Those days are gone. You know, you've got to look at it from a customer service point of view of like everybody else filming it, posting, you know, live streaming that what's your, you know, injury or whatever your event, and you know, what's everybody doing? Why isn't anybody helping them? You know, and get critiqued on the internet, versus, hey, someone runs up with an IFAK or a med kit and starts running your nades. It's like, wow, that's cool. That guy was actually, you know, that girl was actually able to help. But then the day 2, the TAC Med EDC, it's a 1-day class as well. Both are classroom based. TAC Med EDC is basically tactical medicine for everyday carry. So if you're in jeans and a t-shirt and in the back of the restaurant, or you're at a restaurant or the back of the store, picking up milk on the way home, and an act of violence at any level, whether it be one person mugging you or it's another, you know, terrorist attack or a mass killing or active killer event, whatever that act of violence is, how do we identify and treat those injuries? And more importantly, when do we treat those injuries from just the stuff that we're like our EDC kits? And we're seeing a lot more people. We're seeing a lot more people make medical gear part of their everyday carry, which is a good thing. Some of the items, just like we see in the firearms industry, like, hey, that holster or that firearm I probably wouldn't use to protect my life. Well, medical is the same way. And I tell people, hey, think of your everyday carry medical gear just like you do your EDC, defensive tools. It's not as expensive or it's not as cumbersome as you think. And it's just like the first time any of us, started carrying concealed. It's like, well, this is kind of a pain in the rear end until you started figuring it out. And you're like, okay, I don't have to hold my shirt out or anything. And no one sees it, same thing with the medical. And it's there. And so that's what we're going to talk about. The big thing about the TACMed EDC is tactical medicine, but as it applies in the context of a civilian setting, meaning, hey, I'm not the EMT, but what do I do until the EMTs and paramedics arrive at a scene that just had a bunch of active violence? So we think, hey, we'll just call the ambulance, let the guy, the guys and girls in little white uniforms and the white ambulance show up and they'll take care of everything. And that's not how it works all the time,
No, because we just got done defunding them.
Yeah, and then there's not to mention, guys, everything that's going on in the world right now. It's really spooky times in our country, and it's real. There's everybody keeps talking about, hey, the tinder box is about to go off, and it's like, man, I think it already has. It's just kind of maybe a slow burning, but it is burning, and talking about defunding fire and even public safety in general, and I don't think it. People keep using that phrase. I don't think it means what you think it means. You may not like the outcome of that poor decision, but right now it's we had somebody said, "Oh, Caleb and Lone Star Medics, you're just here today because of all the stuff going on in the world. You're trying to make a quick buck, and you're an ambulance chaser." I'm like, guys, I've been doing this for over a decade. This isn't anything new.
You can't accuse a dude who's been on the ambulance of being an ambulance chaser. That's pretty
that some kind of word. Ashton would know what kind of word that is. I don't know what that is, but there's a metaphor or a similar. He'll have something in his lexicon there for us for that word. But that's what the 2 days are: range response, and then TACMed EDC.
Lexicon. That's that plastic stuff that you can see through, right? The Lexan. Oh.
Sure. And bonus points for the Princess Bride reference.
Oh, thank you. Of course. Yeah, in the TACMed EDC, the cool thing in that one, the final training exercise, we're going to run students through some. It's a force on force scenario, but it's all inert. There's no actual projectiles, so it's how do we, so that really drives home an added stressor to the students, so they can see like, hey, it's cumbersome for me to pull that tourniquet out of that method of carry or that pocket or that pouch versus I move it here. And then they also get so we'll use them in blue guns or inert training devices for that.
You said my favorite word lately, which is force on force. I got all giddy there for a second.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were going to say inert.
That's the safe word. That's the safe word.
Pineapple.
So real quick, I do want to pause here for a moment, folks. So for those of you listening, if you have not been on this podcast before, if you first time listener, Kent and I have maintained the status quo or the mantra that if you're going to carry a gun or anything to defend yourself, you should be carrying medical. And if you're not going to carry a gun or anything to defend yourself, you should still carry medical. Because let's face it, folks, the reality of the situation is, regardless of the craziness that goes on in the world with riots and defund this and cancel that, you are far more likely to encounter a medical situation than you are to encounter a situation in which you need to move to lethal means. Be it a traffic accident, maybe somebody else was attacked, maybe it was an elderly person that fell. I've worked in hospitals for a certain period of my life, and things like that do happen. And it really does help to have that type of medical training and that equipment on hand. And of course, with that training, knowing how to use that equipment. So we're not sitting here blowing smoke or trying to take your attention away from all the cool pew pew things. Really just trying to underline or underscore exactly how important medical is. So. That's all
So
I got. I'm off my soapbox. Go ahead. Continue. Talk amongst yourselves.
It's good soapbox. Good soapbox. Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the CDC stats, like number one killer in America is heart-related disease. Now, I'm not going to sit here in tonight's show and start preaching about, hey, eating better food and working out more and taking better care of ourselves. Like, hey, stop smoking, stop drinking. Cigars.
You're not the boss of me. You're not the boss of me.
Now, cigars are different. They're from the earth. They're okay. But, and monks created beer, so that can't be too bad. And, whiskey's from Tennessee, so that can't be too bad either. But you've got, you look at the CDC stats or anybody's stats for that matter, of number one killers, and we're looking at heart-related disease. We're looking at and nothing comes close to heart-related disease. It's heart attacks. Nothing. Cancer, respiratory complications, disease, trauma's up there. But even if you look at those stats even deeper, we're not looking at actual acts of violence. There's accidents and motor vehicle collisions. That's up there, but I will say this because, hey, even though acts of violence are kind of way down there towards the middle or the bottom of the list, depending on who stats you read, John Hearn at Rangemaster, he's got I'm kind of quasi quoting him, but I got it from him. And you got to think of it like this too. It ain't the odds, it's the stakes.
Mm-hmm.
And that has, man, I heard him say that again at TACCon, Ashton, years ago. And I was like, wow, that guy's real smart, and so it's not the odds, it's the stakes. What's at stake? So yeah, I don't get me wrong, guys. Yes, even though I'm not more likely to have come across someone having a heart attack or a car wreck than I am going to need a firearm to defend myself. But I've already, before even my kid, I'm just a regular guy. And before my kid was a year old, we were at, a big box store, and there was a jewelry heist that went down with four armed men. We ran across the street. We got out of there, ran over across the street to seek shelter at the apartment complex, went inside the lobby, and they locked us in there. And I said, what's going on here? And they said, oh, some disgruntled renter, resident just left here, was mad, said he's going to go back to his apartment, get his gun, come back and shoot us all. And I said, what does this guy look like? And they went, oh, like that guy right there. And he's on the outside of this glass door pounding on it. Like, let me in here. I'm going to kill all of you. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just left the jewelry heist. We didn't do the jewelry heist. We just heard big, loud noises and the rush of people. And then we had a bear charges up at Grand Tetons. Got about within a black bear charged me and the baby and the wife. He got kicked out of his the oldest bar in Wyoming. We got involved with we got caught up in one of the protests here in Dallas here recently, trying to, go home from the grocery store, and we got literally caught up in it. We weren't planning on it. We didn't know it was going to happen. And next thing you know, the Dallas PD stopping us and like, no, you guys got to wait, let them pass. And we're like, okay, I guess we're not. All right, we'll sit here and see. Let's look for exits.
So, long story short, don't hang out with Caleb.
Don't hang out. Now you know why when the kid and me just hang out together, my son and I, it's Cowabunga Wednesdays.
God knows what's going to happen.
Cowabunga it is. Well, Cowabunga Wednesday it is.
Oh, so, look, a meteor strike.
So again, it's not the odds, it's the stakes. And so people say, well, that'll never happen. I'm like, it's already happened to me and my family 3 or 4 times in the first 12 months of being a dad. So I'm done. I've got to, here's where I'm at now. It's real.
And the thing is, Caleb doesn't make nearly as many bad decisions as the rest of us, right? Caleb is actually one of those dudes that really lives a reasonable life, and he doesn't make bad decisions. Yet he still finds himself in these situations, right? He doesn't even swear. I mean, come on.
I'm at Costco at 2:15 on a Sunday afternoon. That's not exactly a bad place to be. Costco's fun. I mean, but they got the best pricing on baby formula. That's what we were doing there originally.
And 55 gallons of it, too.
That's right. We still have a little bit left. We use it in our coffee now for creamer.
Man, we have none of that stuff left. Our little dude drinks every drop of baby formula ever. So what I just heard was a disgruntled black bear protester robbed a jewelry store after breaking out of an apartment complex.
We'll go with that. Yeah,
Sure.
That's exactly what happened.
The worst possible scenario, Kent. That's the worst.
Oh, he's been pepper sprayed technically too, because I used bear spray to get the bear to go away, and it was up. We were downwind. I just didn't have a choice, and so he got a dose of the cloud. So did the wife. It was their first time getting pepper sprayed. So, but we still finished the 7-mile hike. So I was the 4th person, I think, that year up to that point to deploy bear spray in Grand Teton National Forest or Park or whatever.
Well, was it effective?
Yes, there was an immediate change of direction in the bear. From the time I saw it, it was about, let's call it 5 car lengths away. And then by the time I literally went, bear reached down at my feet where my day pack, I just swapped out my day pack for the baby backpack carrier thing that the wife was using all morning. And so we had swapped out so I can carry him because I've been carrying all the food and water. Well, the food and water is almost gone because we've had lunch. So I said, babe, you carry the light backpack. I'll carry the kid that's, 30 pounds. And we're adjusting his straps. And I just happened to look up, and there's the bear about 5 car lengths away. I reached down to grab my bear spray can. Counter Assault is the brand. And, calmly, as quickly as I could, but calmly, popped the safety off, went to full extension, gave about a 2 to 3 second burst, aimed it right at its nose. And using a lot of the techniques that Chuck Haggard talks about in his pepper spray courses. And that's what I resorted back to and hit the bear right, he or she, I didn't ask, right there in the nose. And immediately it changed course to about a 90 to 45 degree angle and ran rambling on down back the hill. So that it got about, I'd say it's about 150-pound black bear, because I've grown up with big dogs. I know what a 100-pound dog looks like. It easily had 50 pounds on those. And it got about 8 feet. The wife and I concluded that, kind of figuring it out, we were like, well, I could see the texture, the different colors in its paws and its claws. That's how close it got. And she says, baby, that was bedroom close. And we have a saying when we go training, because she goes to the range too, and we had trained for bear country before and other trips we'd taken before we had the kid, and had plans, contingency. Everybody had bear spray. And the odd thing was, the fascinating thing for us in the farms industry that, train with other people, we don't go by, hey, that's 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards. We go by, hey, is that edge of the bed close? Is that edge of the front of the bumper close of the car? Is that bedroom close? Is that living room close? Put in perspective, of what your daily life is on distances. So we have an idea, just while we're shooting, we're like, hey, this looks like bedroom, 8 to 10 feet. So about 8 to 10 feet is where the bear got before it changed its mind.
So somewhere right now on the Yogi and Boo Boo podcast hour, you're on there going, you won't believe it. This son of a bitch with this big old backpack full of tourniquets and guns and shit. He just come rambling down the road. All I wanted to do was ask him where the next honey was, and he sprayed me in the face with this Us spray. Can you believe they've got Us spray? He's something.
Well, the funny thing is, one of the rangers, we had to fill out a report and everything, make an official thing.
The bear was down there too. Filling out his report.
He's filling out his report too. And he was like,
all I wanted was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah.
I just, Pooh Bear's up there like, man, I just wanted some honey. You're not going to believe this. But it turns out the bear
started throwing a medical thing on the back of a backpack right now. I'm going, I saw that stuff.
The funny thing was the park ranger, they got kind of mad at us because we finished our little 7-mile hike for the rest of 6 hours or whatever. And they said, you should have called 911 and reported back to us immediately. And we're like, why? And they said, well, because when you deploy bear spray, he said, it's like Tabasco. I said, what do you mean? He's like, well, if you get Tabasco in your eyes, it burns, right? Yeah. Same thing with the bear. But you still put it all over your food. And so to them, it's like a spicy flavor. They'll go back to that same spot and lick the dirt and the ground and the leaves where you pepper sprayed them. And I was like, well, I'm telling you, we're right here at this grid coordinate. And he's like, I'd like the lat long and everything. He's like, how the hell do you know that? I was like, what, be able to read a map? What is this, new technology? What do you mean? And I pointed right to the map. And he was like, you're really sure of yourself? I was like, yeah, because the ferry that picks people up is 50 yards away from where that happened. And he's like, oh, well, we need to send somebody out there probably. He's like, well, I don't care. That's not my problem. I'm taking my family. We're going back to Texas where we don't have that crap. Where we have to worry about armadillos. Okay.
Oh my god.
So,
Oh, jeez.
but bear spray works. Anybody that tells you, says, "Oh, you need this caliber, that caliber," I'll take my chances with my bear spray. Thank you very much.
Well, what he's not mentioning is you said you were the fourth case to deploy bear spray that year.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably the same damn bear. He just hadn't learned his lesson yet.
Well, they said too because it was so instant. And that's what Chuck Haggard had asked. He said, "How quickly did the bear respond to the pepper spray?" Because any of us, I don't know if you guys have done any pepper spray training or been sprayed, who were non-compliant at one time in your life. There is a delay. There is like a second and a half or two that you're like, "What was that?" And then you're like, "Oh, that's starting to burn." Oh, wow, there it is. With him or the bear, they said, yeah, the way you're describing, if it changed course immediately, it probably has been pepper sprayed before and associated the sound that canister or the counter assault brand makes. Not that it's a high pitch or anything on purpose. It's just a bunch of contents under pressure, leaving compressed can. That he remember what that was and goes, "Oh, I'm out of here." And they said 150 pounds, probably really, an adolescent, teenage, bear that doesn't know people, are not food.
Just picturing a bear with like Beats by Dre headphones and his pants bobbing real low, like going to tell all his teenage bear buddies. He's like, "You won't believe this motherfucker over here." So it's funny to me because I lived in Vermont for a very long time. Green Mountain Defense is so named after all, and I had several run-ins with the bears myself. And
you get it. You get it.
Yeah, we had a vacation rental company right next to my house, and they would take all the trash from all the rich people's ski houses, and they would put it in one dumpster.
It's a very popular dumpster, I imagine.
I had like the freaking Golden Corral line of black bears in my backyard all the time, and they were just
that's cool.
They're out there. I'm like, "You guys got to go." They're like, "Bitch, we got a club card. This is our place. You get out of here." So
you get away from that chocolate fountain.
Yeah, I've argued with the bears before. I will say that I can confirm bear spray works better than rubber buckshot. So,
good to know.
And people think this isn't an educational podcast. I don't know where they get that from.
But real buckshot works better than all that.
Yeah, that bear did the thing when hit in the ass with rubber buckshot. You ever see a dog get stung by a bee? It did the loop. Well, all of a sudden, I said, "There he goes," and I said, "Fuck, there he comes." He did a whole, just right back around. So that didn't work so good. Yeah, bear spray works. So,
good stuff.
If I was to get my arm, say, mauled off by a bear in the back 40, Mr. Caleb, what would a guy do? So, in all seriousness, there's a couple of things I wanted to break down and talk to you about.
Yeah, let's talk.
I wanted to talk to you about real world of work for medical for everyday people, which I think is a lot of what we're going to be doing in October. I say we because we're selling the shit out of this class for you, and there's at least one dude from North Carolina coming up. So, Zach, you better be paying attention because this will be on the pop quiz that Caleb's going to make you go through. So most of us are not SWAT cops. Most of us are not Rangers. Most of us are not riding an ambulance, et cetera. Most of us are just living our lives. And as a fellow redneck Pro 2A American Jeeping outdoor living guy, hunting, fishing, shooting, mountain biking, right? Mm-hmm. There are some scenarios and situations in my not my daily life, but certainly frequently enough in my life to where I'm going to be my own first responder, not because of any political reason, just because I chose to be way the hell out here for whatever reason, right? So one of my big interests in medical is always, what we're looking at for kind of a more extended care and a need to transport somebody, things like that. And if there are any, what are the differences between how you should approach the same type of wound, let's say in the back 40 versus in the Walmart parking lot?
Sure. you wouldn't. It's like, how do I put this? It's a loaded answer. I always tell people, it's like, hey, there's a reason we have like so many different courses available at Lone Star Medics, is because the key words there are applicability and context. So, it's kind of like, hey, if I'm going to be sheep hunting, at over 8,000 feet of elevation, then I'm probably going to be way up there in the hills, way up in the mountains, and to get to a hospital may take literally a day or two.
Yep.
Depending, even if there's bad weather, hey, now we're up to 3 days. Versus, hey, what else? My daily activity is going to consist of taking kids to school, dropping them off, driving downtown to a big city to park in the parking garage, and then walk 3 city blocks to go up to the 42nd floor of the building, and then come home, then reverse that, pick up kids, go to baseball practice, and then go home. And those are two huge different activities with a lot of the environments are completely different. And I don't mean just environment like, hey, I'm at altitude and the weather. That's a big thing too. But I'm also talking about available resources, what I can carry with me. If you're up sheep hunting, well then, hey, you're ounces equal pain. You're not carrying a lot of stuff. If you're driving around town in the metropolitan area, hey, you've got your vehicle. You can probably store a few extra items there, like a vehicle med kit. And you've got other people. You've got ambulance. You've got access to 911 and to hospitals. So there's that whole different, you've got those available resources. So your kit's going to, your medical equipment and your training needs to reflect that. So for an everyday, like, hey, I'm driving around town and I'm regular soccer mom and dad, right? Okay, cool. Then think of your medical gear too, if that's what you're asking. Like, hey, what do I really need to carry? Think of it in different tiers or different levels. So level one would be like, hey, my everyday carry gear. So I'm talking simple stuff, minimalistic kit that I carry with me, and I'll share that with y'all and the listeners here tonight. We're talking like, hey, how do I control bleeding? Because I need to look at it not from a equipment standpoint. I need to look at it as what am I going to die of first? Well, bleeding out, not having a pulse, breathing through holes of my, on the side of my lungs, those type of things. So as long as I can identify and treat injuries related to circulation, airway, and breathing, and solve those 3 problems, I'll probably be okay until the medics get there. Now, if I'm up in the mountains at 10,000, 12,000 feet, sheep hunting, it's a little bit different. I've got to now worry about, hypothermia, altitude sickness, and everything else. And hey, it's going to be delayed transport time to get any definitive care. So I'm obviously going to need a little bit more than just like a tourniquet, some wound packing, and a chest seal. We're going to need litters and stretchers somehow. We're going to need maybe some splinting material, any over-the-counter medications and stuff that may go along with that too. And not just for you, but maybe for the guys on your hunting trip to help them too. What if they get one dude's altitude sickness and still having to carry you down the hill? Things to think about. So think of them in different levels, and a level 2 might be something like, hey, a vehicle size kit. So, okay, I've got my 2 tourniquets. I've got a couple of the Elias bandages in there, the pressure bandages from TacMed Solutions. I've got a couple chest seals, and then I've got a whole bunch of gauze, and then probably like 20 pairs of nitrile medical exam gloves, just in a vehicle kit. We had a LSM alumni who's in the industry, firearms industry, kind of military law enforcement industry, and he came across a wreck. And man, it's probably been 6-7 years since he was in our class, and he was like, "Man, that training helped. I had good gear, and he was able to help some people." But he said one thing I learned real quick was how many pairs of gloves I went through. It was a pretty bad car wreck, and he said, "Yeah, that was my one critique about myself is the 2 pairs of gloves wasn't enough." So we've heard that from some other students too, and we did the math, and our scenarios were like, "Wow, they're using a lot of gloves. They're going through a lot of gloves pretty quick. We're going to have to get some more gloves before class is over." So that's call that a clue. And then level 3 and 4, that may be something back at the house, maybe your family prep stuff, or hey, it's the get home bag, that type of thing, or off body carry. So just different levels. So they think of your medical equipment in different levels. And then you just keep adding to it, and you got to do your own risk assessment to figure out what exactly you may need. But I would say there's no prefabricated kit on the market to say, hey, Caleb at Lone Star Medics tells you to go to this company and buy this one kit. There's not one that solves the problem for everybody, because just like if our friends, if they'll listen, if our friends and those of you listen at home too, we can ask all the time from our friends like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a firearm. What do you think I should get? You guys answer this. What's the first question you're going to ask them back?
What do you need it for?
Well, if they say, hey, I'm going to be out quail hunting, well, we'll probably put the Glocks to the side for now. If they say, hey, I'm going to...
Says you.
We're going to make it sporty. We're going to give the quail a run for their money.
I've been jacked by a quail before. Them quails can carry a real small stitch blade in their quail prison purse. Don't fuck with them things. So.
That's funny.
You're
scared
on
of
fire
quail,
tonight.
But the guy that has used to black bears hanging around his back door, in his backyard, no big deal. But
terrified of quail.
Terrified of quail. Obviously, you come down to Texas, bud. We'll show you what you do with quail, and you wrap them in there. You wrap a quail breast up in bacon and a hunk of cheddar cheese, and throw it over the grill and with a jalapeno, and it's good. Okay.
Me a cheddar cheese. Beyond cheddar cheese is just gravy to me. I'm all set.
Yeah, we wrap them up in bacon and jalapeno and cheddar and grill them up. So, so looking at your medical gear as different tiers, that's the key. And keeping it minimalistic as far as everyday carry for most of us. Hey, we're looking at trying to control bleeding, and we're looking at trying to keep the holes that if we receive any holes in our lungs or like our thoracic region. So think of anywhere there's ribs, front, sides, and back, right? Because we are 3-dimensional. So I always tell students, hey, your patient's 3-dimensional, guys. Not just this side. There's that side and that angle, upside down, and everything else. So you got to think, hey, chest seals. So we're looking at, hey, you need to carry a tourniquet. You need to be carrying some type of wound packing material, and then probably something to keep the wound packing material in the wound that you're packing. And then chest seals. And that's a good start. I will say I see a lot of people that are trying to cram so much stuff into the EDC med kits. It's just amazing me. I'm like, wow. Hey, yeah, we'd all love to carry around a 55-pound aid bag, with all everything in the kitchen sink in it, but no one's going to do that, not for the most part. But yeah, keep it minimalistic with your EDC stuff, because people start carrying like spare mags in their ankle med kits or multi-tools or chem lights or flashlights or spare batteries. I'm like, hey, there's a place for that. I don't know that I'd be carrying it in my med gear or med kit, just me.
Some fixed sticks and a CR2032 battery to keep that RMR going. It has to be in your right ankle for some reason. Yeah.
Which is fine. If you're going to carry ankle rigs for backup equipment, great. I'm just not a fan of using the same thing to carry my, my med gear. But I've got a belt. I wear pants. I'm a man. I wear jeans.
I'm a man. I wear pants.
I don't wear shorts a lot.
To be fair, they are Jordache acid wash.
George.
Wow. I'm a Jabot guy. I like wearing Jabots.
Dude.
Gotcha.
That just dated. Caleb, some listeners are like, who? Just Google it.
Caleb, at one time, I remember you answering that kind of question with a little less detail, right? Almost to the point where you kind of didn't want to answer. You didn't want to talk about what you carry in your EDC gear in that stuff that you're toting around with you every day. And at that point, the answer that I heard you give to somebody was, if you don't know what to put in there, you don't have enough training.
I said something close to that. Yes,
something to that effect. I'm not quoting you. That was some years ago, and I'm interested as to I truly agree with your position from then, but can you talk about why it was that you used to say that, whereas you're more forthcoming now, and you even kind of gave a little caveat. I'm willing to share this with you guys and your listeners. Why is it that you feel that way?
Because sometimes when I've given out that information, it gets taken out of context, and they think, oh, he said I only need a tourniquet, a pressure bandage, and a chest seal, and that's all they hear, because communication is a big deal. And for those that are listening to this and on the podcast, well, that's why some shows where, hey, we've got the video. It's kind of cool to see the video because I show different products and stuff. They get it. But if we've got, or in classes, but just communicate with people. So I think there's some of that has been in the years past a miscommunication. So I've had to, and I've been a little naive as a rookie instructor. I think that I would say, hey, if you don't know what you don't know, kind of a thing. Like, hey, if you have to ask what you should be carrying in your kit, I still stand by that to some degree, but I don't want it to be people that don't know me to say, oh, well, he's just being very standoffish and being crass about it, being caustic. He's trying, what I'm trying to say is, hey, like, well, it's still good. Even if you don't have the training, you should probably still go and carry the gear with you, because the stuff that I recommend, it's pretty intuitive. There's not a lot of, if I've done that with students before classes, I'll say, hey, I'm just curious to see what you guys work with me. And I'll throw them different products to see what they can and can't do. And I'll say, hey, if that guy's arm is bleeding, use this thing. And let me see if you can figure out how to use it. And they're like, oh God. And they're really scared because they don't want to be made fun of. And I'm like, no, guys, you already told us you don't know anything about this product or anything, or that's why you're here in this class. So I'm just from a purely, research point of view, I want to see if you can do it. So the pressure bandage I hand them, the Elias bandage from TACMed, the Solutions, they can take that and they open it up and they look and they're like, well, I guess, yeah, kind of like this. I'm like, yeah, you nailed it. Great. There's a few tricks that we can make it better. But for the most part, they were able to take the bandage, wrap around them. The tourniquet, same way. They kind of get it and figure out something and pull it tight. They get that. So it's not rocket science. But so I used to say, if you have to ask and you don't know, go get training, because a lot of us, even in the firearms industry, it's like, hey, I want that magical talisman. I want the security blanket of the tools, but I don't know how to make this Phillips head screwdriver work. But I'm going to get one, and by gosh, I've got this Phillips head screwdriver or this hammer, and I think I could figure out how to hammer a nail with if I had to, which you can. And I think Claude Warner's talked about it too plenty of times, where he said, hey, you'd be amazed how many people actually use a firearm in self-defense without having any formal training whatsoever. And they're successful at it, and it's a positive outcome. Mm-hmm. Now, great, but, again, I'll go take training and be a little more prepared for it. If I'm carrying this thing, if I'm an actual concern for my family's safety and myself, I want to be a little educated on it. But oddly enough, Ashton, in over a decade of training, I'm coming up on, this is our 11th year. In 11 years, I can honestly say, guys, I've never had a student in 10 years that has at least taken an 8-hour class with us ask me, what should I put in a med kit? Now, they do ask me X versus Y products. Like, hey, this tourniquet versus that tourniquet. Okay, cool. But they know they need a tourniquet. They know they need one of these two or these three. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, this hemostatic versus that hemostatic agent, Caleb, what do you think? Those conversations we have. Or even, hey, how many bandages do you think I need? Well, 2 or 4. It's like, hey, let's talk about it. But they know what they need. They just don't know how many or where to go get it. They're always, looking for shopping. And they're always trying to do that one click and done shopping, which I get. We're all the same way as consumers. But it's how do I want to word this on the short side? Or quickly is, it's not because you don't know what you don't know, but it's like, guys, like that's what I was getting with 10 years of teaching people. That's this number one question I get from a lot of people is, what should I put in my kit? And I'm like, hey, if you had taken a class from an instructor that was worth a darn, they would have covered medical equipment selection in their course.
And showed you how to use it.
What's that?
No.
And showed you how to use it.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, we have a saying in EMS: you treat your patient, not your equipment. So let's not be so worried about the equipment, because hey, that little sexy EDC kit you're carrying. Let's say you're at a concert, and let's say you're at a concert in Las Vegas, and let's say something tragic happens, and there's hundreds of people that are injured or trampled on, and you've got your cute little sexy EDC kit, and you think you're going to save the planet with that thing. Guys, that one kit that you're carrying for the most part, which makes sense, it's you're carrying it to design because, hey, it's for you, one, I don't carry this kit because I plan on using it on my child or my wife. Why? Because they're carrying their own. Mm-hmm. So when the three of us go out to dinner, or leave the house, all three of us will have our own EDC med kit. How does the baby carry his? He carries it in his diaper bag. So one of us has always got his kit, and we have a rule like, hey, the diaper bag stays with the kid. If one of us in the grocery store says, I'm going to go get milk, you keep the kid and go get the aluminum foil. Like, today we were shopping and so the wife knows, oh, here's the diaper bag. You're staying with the kid. You guys go get foil and I'll go get the whatever, so all three of us carry our own stuff. And that's just a force multiplier too. If one of us gets hurt, then now we have 3 kits to solve that problem. And who said it's going to be 1 injury per person?
Right.
We talk about multiple gunshot wounds on multiple people. Now all of a sudden, yes, now there's time and place to improvise, but not that's going to be your primary focus, your primary defense plan. So it's, but yeah, oddly enough, I've never had a student, and it's always people that have never even taken my classes ask me. And I'm like, I've written about this. I've written like 3 articles. 2 or 3 of them are up on our website. Talked about it in, podcasts and interviews, what to carry. And people still keep calling, asking, hey, what do you think I should carry? I don't know. I don't really care.
Well, now the obvious follow-up to that, Caleb, is what shouldn't I have in there?
Good question.
I'm going to do it to you. You already talked about multi-tools and batteries and flashlights and God knows what else people put in there. But as far as some of the stuff it's sort of like the wasp spray of medical gear. And I'm going to do it to you, and I'm apologizing before I do it. But I hear it all the time, and I'm not a medical guy. I don't have the resume to be able to say, aside from, hey, guys like Caleb told me, what's the deal with tampons in medical gear?
Sure.
What's the story?
Using tampons or maxi pads, feminine hygiene products, that's kind of been I'm not going to say rumor, but apparently they were trying to use those at one time during the war, Iraq and Afghanistan. And people say, well, they fit inside the bullet hole. A tampon was originally designed for wartime. And I'm like, well, no, it doesn't matter what the history of a product is or a device is. Let's worry about the way you're trying to use it today. So if we're looking at tampons, yes, if they fit inside a bullet hole wound on human tissue, great. That's not our objective with trying to control major bleeding from a gunshot wound or from shrapnel for that matter. So you had a lot of soldiers overseas. Maybe they had medical equipment, maybe they didn't. And so they were making do as best they could. And I don't know how those stories got, but they started getting maxi pads and tampons thinking they were good to go. I've had plenty of people argue on the internet with me and other of my colleagues about how their buddy or themselves saved their buddy's life using a tampon. I'm like, sure, then go ahead and show me the patient report on that. Show me the documentation of that. And they can't, they won't. It's like, well, it was so-and-so, a buddy of mine and a friend of mine, a college roommate from back east or something. And I'm like, okay, so you really have any evidence, do you? Well, this is medicine. We believe in evidence and science and data. But 2, obviously, you don't know anything about what a tampon does. I mean, I ask people, men and women, all the time. I was like, hey, have you ever opened a tampon and looked at it? And the guys are always like, hell no. And I'm like, well, if you keep advocating that they're going to stop the bleeding, and if you like in one article, I opened it up with Personal Defense Network, and I opened it up, and it's this little tiny square piece of gauze. I mean, it's like a half inch or an inch by an inch. And I said that. And then I hold up an Elias modular bandage, that's 6 inches wide and it got 4 yards of gauze inside it. So you can use it as a secondary bolt dressing if you need to, for bolt dressing. And I'm like, okay, so you got this giant bandage or you got this little tiny thing that slips inside past the skin. And that's all it does. There's no 3-dimensional pressure put on the tampon is incapable of doing that to stop major bleeding. And so it's just been a falsehood or a urban legend that they work, and they don't. And maxi pads the same thing. And I'm like, no. Have you ever opened up a maxi pad and looked at it? Have you ever spilt any blood on it or anything? 2, tampons and maxi pads, guys, they were never designed, and they're not today, the modern ones, who cares about the history, but they're not designed, and they don't work for pressurized arterial bleeding. That's not what they work for. And it was, well, it works for women then when they bleed and have their period. I'm like, no, that's not pressurized arterial bleeding.
And
fact,
every person that said that was a man, I guarantee.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have this argument with this guy, and he can't even explain to me the details of what a menstrual cycle is about. I'm like, I'm asking the questions, and the guy's like, huh? Now, granted, there's been some women too that ask, and I start, and then with women taking better care of themselves because they go to the doctor at least once or twice a year, and they take care of themselves, and that's why they're stronger and better than us as a species. But because we're too stubborn to go to the doctor. So everybody that's a listener, if you're a male over the age of 21, go to your doctor and get checked out, man, annually. Okay. Get everything checked out. Everything. My goodness. Take a hint. That's why women live longer than us. Okay. So take care of yourselves. But off that soapbox. So, but yeah, tampons, they just don't work. They don't do what everybody thinks it is. Like, well, it fits in the bullet hole. That's not our objective. Our objective is to create three-dimensional pressure and to control the hemorrhaging. And they don't do that at all.
They're really the wasp spray of medicine. They really are. They're the hornet and wasp spray versus OC.
Yeah,
that's exactly where they fit.
The steel Chuck Haggart's thunder there. I'll say that. Yeah, it's the wasp spray of that, and it never dies. It just always comes up.
So while we're on the topic of things not to carry or things that maybe you'd recommend against, so Bullet Sponge asked in the chat opinions on elastic style tourniquet, multi-use option, or waste of time. I know that I have one of these. It is not my primary, but what I've seen, there seems to be some credence from it, so I can't blame somebody for maybe taking interest or thinking these is a viable option. So what are your thoughts? What is the best tourniquet that you would recommend? And what are your thoughts on the elastic?
So as far as the two-part question, okay, so the first part, what's Caleb's favorite tourniquet? Two-part answer for that. One, I would recommend and advocate for the tourniquets that the Committee on Tactical Combat Casualty Care recommends. So you can go to deployedmedicine.org.com. Anyways, Google deployed medicine. There's an app for it. My God, and they'll have the latest updates. It's a phenomenal. It should be on everybody's phone. Everybody's listeners should find that app, download it. It'll tell you more about combat medicine than you ever want to know. But they've got categories for service members that are non-medical. That'll break it down in kind of crayon level for us. Okay. So deployedmedicine.org, and you can the Deployed Medicine app, and they'll have a list of, hey, Causey recommended tourniquets. There's like 6 of them on there. Okay. Me personally, what do I carry? What does my family would carry? It's a soft T wide from Tactical Medical Solutions. Okay. And I've got my reasons for that. I don't know how much time we have left to go down that rabbit hole. But for me, in my personal opinion, okay, again, I'm basing it off my personal opinion off a lot of science and data. But then just after watching people train with them for 10 years, for everyday carry, they don't snag on stuff. So there's little Caleb nuances that I see that's why I've chosen the soft T wide to include hey, let's. The company TacMed Solutions. Even I looked at all the companies that make these tourniquets, and I said, you know what, TacMed Solutions. I know those men and women in that company. I don't get anything back from them for saying I've been advocating for that company for 10 years, and I just now got a free T-shirt out of the deal, and it was pretty cool because they were like, man, you don't even have a T-shirt. We got to get you a T-shirt, dude. And I said, yeah. Well, they said, what size you wear? I said, I wear a 2X, but I look good in a medium. And they're like, okay, so they're funny. They're a bunch of ball busters. And so they sent me a size medium. And I sent back the guy, said, hey, thanks. Here's here's a picture of me in your medium shirt. And there's my belly sticking out the bottom. I barely got that thing on. And you can imagine. And I realized after I hit send on the email that I should not have sent an electronic photo me in that shirt. So I went, oops. But anyways,
I just want to point out 10 years from now, your son's going to be in the car go, Daddy's on a billboard.
yeah, it's going to happen, man. There's a few photos I'm not. I mean, if that's the worst, then I'll take it.
For links to Caleb's OnlyFans page.
Yeah.
Some boy driving down the highway right now going, that's that motherfucker right there. That's the guy.
That's the guy. That's the guy that was on the show, man. But as far as that's what's trying to get. So your second question was about the elastic ones.
Yeah, I think probably the more common ones that people will associate that with is the Rats tourniquet.
Yeah, so the we do, while we look at some of the SWAT T, the Rats, some of the other ones that may be elastic that I don't even know that are out there yet. TK4. We look at we start asking people the SWAT T and the Rats, like, hey, show us some peer reviews, third party studies, some data and some science that they work, and there isn't any. So that's kind of, well, okay, that's interesting. Two, there is a study that says, hey, if you don't have some type of windlass or mechanical advantage to, once you tighten up the tourniquet, the strap, to a mechanical advantage, that then they do fail majority of the time when compared to the other ones that do have a windlass or some type of, like the RMT. It's got like the ski boot buckle. Click that one. If it doesn't have something like that, then they do fail. So, okay, then that's a problem too. They stretch. There's studies that show that, hey, because they're stretching, and that means, well, if think of it like, what's the deal with all of us having flies flying around our cameras and our screens tonight at home? Now
I'm being attacked.
Yeah, now it's over here with me. It flew over to my house.
It's that good of an internet connection. We're practically right next to each other.
We're all tripping out over here. Where were we? Okay, so if we look at the elastic ones, well, why does it need to be elastic? Why does it need to stretch? We don't want anything that stretches. The objective here is to constrict, not release.
Can I add something to this real quick?
Sure.
The reason it has to stretch is because if you wear a Camelback to an EDC class for some reason, you want to make sure that motherfucker is stretched through every molly loop on that Camelback so that you can never, ever, ever get it out. Or at least that's what one gentleman told me.
Yeah, you don't lose it, I guess. No, the two good things, I will say this about the Rats. The two positives is the color orange that they picked for their orange, the safety orange, is the brightest orange of all the tourniquets available. So you can actually see it. So that way you can avoid it. But two, sorry. I hate bashing products, guys. I really do. It's not my thing. The guy that created it, bless his heart, he served our country honorably, from my understanding, and I don't really have a beef against the dude or the companies that do sell them. I just, it's to a degree. Now, when he did launch it, they did say TCC approved, stamped on it. That I got kind of a problem with. And trying to, that's misleading to the consumer that doesn't know any better in a couple of different ways. I got a problem with that. But as far as, the second thing about the Rats that I think it's great for is if you've got that blue tarp flapping around in the tailgate of your pickup and you're moving stuff, you can use it to secure it. It's good for using that.
Well, in pure redneck engineering, you never know when you need a good bungee cord.
True. And it's good to have it with your Camelback because that's where you need that stuff. And, but yeah, well, because everybody says, hey, the reasons they carry these subpar tourniquets that are not COTC recommended is because, well, it's easy to carry and it's cheap, or it fits around my kid's arm and my dog. And I'm like, so cheap and fits in my back pocket is your unit of measure for a life-saving device.
This is my number one pet peeve with this stuff. And I'm tired of hearing it about guns. I'm tired of hearing about med. I'm tired of hearing about tools. I'm tired of hearing about cars. I'm just tired of it. When people take the thing that's supposed to save their life, whatever that thing may be, whether it's training or whether it's a piece of gear, and they start squabbling over $20, you lose me. I just can't get on that level.
Yeah, they're looking at, people think, well, $30 for a tourniquet, okay, it's $29 and change for Softy Wide retail. And they're like, man, $30, that's expensive. And I'm like, well, what are you compared to what? What are you basing that off of?
Right.
Now, granted, today I get it, man. Hey, man, I got to pay for daycare like every other dad out there, man, and it's expensive. We're all in the wrong business. We should be running daycares if we want to make big money. I'm telling you right now. Okay, it's more than our mortgage right now, dude. Are you? It's maddening. But where was I going with that?
Lone Star Daycare will be opening up in.
Yeah, no,
right. Caleb,
actually.
Something I found, having been through, a bit of your training and other folks too, was that, there seems to be kind of, I don't know, there's kind of two good tourniquets out there. I'm not the guy to ask about this. This is what I've been told. The cat tourniquet's pretty good, and the Softy Wide is obviously good to go too. And what I found through my my training and practice was, I found that for me, the cat was easier for me to put on myself than the Softy Wide was. Right. So if I had to self-rescue and I had to apply one of these when I was on my own, if something horrible happened, those are a little easier for me to deal with. But the retention of them after they're applied, is not quite as robust as say the Softy Wide is, with 2 points of retention, hard retention versus more flexible retention and all that stuff. So what I've done is, in the gear that I have with me at the range when I'm teaching, or I'm training as a student, because as mentioned earlier, Dave Morford about 1.5 million years ago was one of my first instructors, taught me, always a student, sometimes an instructor. I have both of them if I have the real estate, right? And if I'm taking a bunch of junk with me, and it's stuff that I take with me out to the mall or whatever. But if I have the opportunity, I have both of those with me, because one's easier for me to apply to myself, and the other is a little better for application to somebody else. Thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking like, hey, Chevy versus Ford, right?
Right.
In our context, it may be a Glock being the Softy Wide, and your cat maybe your MP, right, or whatever. So those would be the top two that I would probably, if I had to pick two to recommend. Yeah, that would be the top two. Absolutely. They're the most history. They're pretty much neck and neck as far as the science and data. There's a lot on both, and they've both been there since day one. So they're good stuff. Both companies, North American Rescue and TAC Med Solutions, have made improvements to their devices over the years, where that actually and improvements that actually made it where there was beneficial. Some of the other companies didn't. They made improvements and it made it worse or more difficult or cumbersome or whatever, is more of a negative or a mute point. But after watching watching students for 10 years, asking them now that once they're if they're like before class, I give one or the other and see how they do, just purely as a research point of view and from my own benefit to see how they do, versus, and then they're both about the same for the non-initiator. For people that aren't trained, they both had the same character features as far as, hey, students can apply them or can't. They both have the pros and cons at that point. Then by the end of class, I asked students like, hey, which one do you prefer, Softy, Wide, or Cat? And for 10 years is literally split down the middle. Past few years now, when Causey's recommended a few other tourniquets, we've been showing students some of those too, and they're still like, Cat or Softy Wide for the most part. I'd say a strong majority of them. I'm talking, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I'd say well over 75%. 3/4 of the students that we train, they prefer, the Cat or Softy Wide. Now between those two, they're split down the middle. Some people, a lot of people say, oh, for one-handed, it seems easier to use the Cat, but
Mm-hmm.
If I'm EDCing and some other pros like getting the soft TY to fold really flat, it does that.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I've got just as many students that say that once they're trained on both, they're like, I'm actually find the soft TY better as for one-handed self-application. So for the worst case scenarios, you're by yourself, you have to apply the tourniquet to your arm by yourself. That's one thing. So you've got, it really is split down the middle. I tell students, hey, in my classes, train with both. I've got several different manufacturers of tourniquets, but like, hey, I want you to be able to be proficient with both because if, think of it like a battlefield pickup, Ashton, you and I go to dinner and I carry a Glock, you may carry something else, but for whatever reason, I'm out of ammo or I'm, my gun goes down or whatever and get shot out of my hand. That has happened some places. Then not mine, I'm just saying. But then I got to use your gun, let's say. Well, I should be able to use yours very proficiently, just as proficiently, right? Now, I don't know how that's going to work with Caleb because everybody's starting to put red dots all over their stuff. I'm not up to that cool level yet. I haven't seen the light with that yet. But so I may be able to be, looking for a red dot if I had a battlefield pickup one. But I figure it out. You know what I mean? I'll figure it out. So that's why the cat versus softy wide, man, we're splitting hairs. They're both great. Mm-hmm. I really don't have a beef with one more than the other. I guess if you but like I said, I still carry the softy wide. It's what my family carries. That's kind of if I had to pick one, that's it.
I have more of those because of you, actually. But so when I go to buy these things, does it matter where I buy them?
Absolutely.
Or can I just go on Amazon or whatever and pick the cheapest ones, right?
Look at Ashton teeing that up for me. No, you definitely want to buy your life-saving medical devices and equipment from directly from the manufacturers or from a licensed dealer. There's so many counterfeits out there on the market. In fact, for the past almost 2.5 years now, since I've been keeping track, I have literally come across at least one counterfeit product in every class for the past 2.5 years.
Yikes.
A student will come to class, at least one in every class, usually more than that. Everything from chest seals, hemostatic agents, pressure bandages, tourniquets. Someone had a fake rats of all things.
How does that even work?
Well, I think it's basically think of it like if Blackhawk, instead of saying Serpa, they put Phobos on it. I mean, I don't know.
Dude, I'm crushing on you so bad right now.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens. Like it's Phobos calling it a Serpa. That's what I meant to say.
He's fucking awkward later.
But there's the dinner timer. That's our cue for all of us. We've lost our minds. But where were we? Serpas. No.
We're avoiding counterfeit shit.
The Serpa leads to needing the tourniquet. That's how that works.
Hey, I every time I see someone on the range with that, I go over there. It's like, hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but hey, here's my card. After you get back to the hospital and get that sorted out, call me. That I'll be accused of an ambulance chaser for. I'm like, hey, look, I know you're going to be mad about this, and in about 2 weeks, you're going to be sitting there reviewing this in your head. You're like, damn, I need to take some medical training because you'll think that's better. But yeah, so just here's my number.
Wait,
yeah.
Is it ambulance chasing if you get there before they need the ambulance to drop a subtle hint?
Hey, look, every business owner runs their business how they run their business. I'm not giving away any trade secrets here, But no, definitely not buying stuff off eBay and Amazon and stuff like that. Go straight to the source, man. You don't know. Even if it's an authorized Amazon store, there's still so many, evil people out there selling, fake products out there. There's companies that make fake cats, and I won't even name those companies tonight, but and they're making a lot of money, man, over uninformed people, and they're taking advantage of them.
So Caleb, from the chat, a fella's asking, it doesn't work. What's wrong with the knockoffs?
Sure. Well, one, people think, hey, I'll save some money first off, and then two, they think, well, it's just like it or just as good, and it's not. It's the quality control is not there. The materials,
I hate those words.
The assembly of it, the the material that it's made out of some of these counterfeits, the stitching, the glue dots, everything about them. And I've seen fake counterfeits of all of them now. And for most, I should say, for most of them. And the quality is not near there. Guys, this is these things go through some serious testing, and a lot of data is done with them and peer reviews and stuff. That's why, I mean, it's evidence-based medicine. That's the key there. And these other companies that are making these, I mean, a company tried, some fire manufacturer created a tourniquet and said, hey, they took it to shot like last year or something, or here recently, 2 or 3 years ago. And a buddy of mine, a colleague, he got hold of it and did a live Instagram video of it and put it on and said, hey, let's check this out. Put it in his arm and started cranking it, and it broke immediately. And he's like, guys, I did not set this up. And he was like, and he's an honest dude. And Mike looked at it and was just like, oh my God, it's in pieces right there live on social media. And and that wasn't a counterfeit. That was just one that came out in the market. And we haven't heard anything since from them. But the counterfeit ones, even people think, hey, for training, I'll get a cheap one where it's $15 and I'll save myself some money. The problem with that is now you're putting money in those companies' hands that still continue to make those subpar products that people are basing their life on.
Yeah, so I think that raises an interesting question. So in the essence of training, is there any risk to the equipment to use the real stuff? I mean, obviously for like packing wounds and stuff, maybe you've got some throwaway gauze that you use, or, obviously you don't want to reuse that. But for things like tourniquets.
Yeah, you can. I mean, for wound packing, using a t-shirt, you can use dirt if you had to.
Right. But with regard to the higher dollar items, is there a risk to damaging or maybe wearing out, say a soft T wide? Sure. If you use it in training.
Sure, and that's the thing. You want to make sure that these devices, even the legit softy wides and cats, they're designed for one-time use only.
Right.
These are not like, hey, I want my tourniquet back when that guy gets done with it from the hospital. No, you don't. It's going to be covered in blood and goo and nastiness. You don't want it. Okay. And it's designed for one-time use. So here we are out there in the training, out there at home, letting our family, we store it there in the cushion of the couch, and everybody, every time a certain commercial comes on, they're sitting there trying to beat the commercial, put it on and everything. But most like cats and soft T-wides, they'll take a beating. One article I published with the Personal Defense Network talks about we had one fail. I've gotten all tourniquets to fail in my classes in 10 years. I've gotten all of them to fail, or I should say break. Let me rephrase that. It's not like I'm out there Doppler checking every student, okay? But we've gotten all of them to break. Mm-hmm. And what in one way or another. And whether it was stitching that came and done, the plastic something or other broke, or there was so much mud caked on them, they wouldn't feature the buckles. I mean, all sorts of stuff. But I don't know if that feedback's me or not. But sorry,
no, it's Kent.
There we go. How do I want to say this? Where were we? Now I've gone down a rabbit hole.
Wearing out real world equipment.
Yeah, wearing out. So you definitely want a designated trainer. They cost the same. It costs about $30, just like the other regular ones. Yeah, Ashton's holding up a trainer cat, and they're good. But when we broke, we ended up having one of our students broke one of the soft T wides in class, and I took some photos. I had him pause for a second, and I wrote an article about it, and I contacted Ross Johnson, the guy that created it, and shot him an email and said, hey, this is what we got coming up down the pipeline, just a heads up. And in the article, it wasn't bashing TACMed Solutions or the soft T wide. It was saying it was more of a testimony of its durability, because he and I talked, and he said, hey, we're looking at probably you've had this thing for about so many months, because the manufacturer date's on there. These things do have shelf lives, by the way. Everything in medicine does is how they make their money. It's only good for a week. Then you got to buy a new one. I'm kidding. They're good for longer than a week. But he said, taking it, and I never keep track of how many times each student uses a tourniquet in training and during a class. There's no way for me to keep track of that. But we estimate conservatively to within so many months, we're talking less than 6 months, 200 to 250 applications on other humans and on our Rescue Randy mannequin. So a really rigid legged mannequin or arms. So people usually crank down harder. And it was where the windlass started, the knurling on the windlass actually tore up the stitching where the triangle is on softy wide, and that's what popped off. It wasn't the plastic that broke; it was the stitching that wore down. But 200 to 250 applications, that's a pretty good testimony to our durability.
Yeah.
All these other fake ones and stuff, guys, they break within the first or second application. You know, and we're like, wow, okay, well, then get what you pay for.
Right.
You know, skip Starbucks twice next week, and you can afford a tourniquet. You know.
Yeah, that's the way it is with most of these. Any concept we're going to talk about, life-preserving gear, it amazes me people skimp out. So I've got a question for you since you brought this up so many times. And dudes, if you guys could stop texting me your questions on the podcast.
or you could put your phone on silent.
My phone is on silent. They're coming through the Mac computer, and I have no idea it got to stop. It won't stop, and I try to go away and make it stop. And
just makes so much more work for me in post.
Yes, TJ Ramsey, we do need to have him back for part 2. For fuck's sake.
Well, I do know somebody earlier on asked about trauma shears.
In
an EDC kit. I caught that question because I didn't click over on the comment section. I apologize.
Here's where I'm going.
The trauma shears says EDC. I don't everyday carry my trauma shears or cutting tool. I love. I'm a big fan of the Benchmade 7-hook to remove clothing and that sort of thing. But I don't EDC it, but it's for sure in my level 2 kits, like vehicle kit, range med bag, stuff like that, and everything up from there. Sure. But I just don't EDC shears. They're just too cumbersome. The 7-hook, depending on which kit I'm wearing that day or where I'm going, I might take it. You know, like in the wintertime, I'll probably carry it with me because we got so many layers of clothing to get through if I have to find an injury. But I saw that one in the comments for you. So what else you got, man?
I got one specific to something you keep talking about. And I've asked one other meta awesome guy this question, but new dad. What should be different in the little guy's med kit?
Yeah. And that's what everybody says the elastic ones are great for. Pediatrics or for kids and dogs. And I'm a dog lover, you know, real dogs like 55 pounds and up. You know what I mean? Not little Triscuits. No, I'm kidding. I love even the little guys. I'm a dog lover. But no, with kiddos, a couple things to take into consideration and, you know, in the context. One, we're not seeing near the little ones that are so small that where the softy wide of the cat won't cinch down to when you're pulling slack out of the buckle. If they're still too small for that, well then, hey, one, that means their age group, and I'm judging that by body weight, right? Not their age, because we've all seen the 2-year-old that's 6'5" and 250 pounds. Okay,
this is my co-host.
This is, you know, this. So we've all seen the 5-year-olds like that, but the if you weren't that age group of kids are typically not getting into that type of traumatic injuries. Okay, they're looking at, you know, other types of mechanisms of injury or illnesses. You know, we're not worried about necessarily IEDs. It's not a big thing for kids. Not saying it doesn't happen. Not saying that, you know, kids haven't been killed in, you know, active killer scenarios and events in the past. I mean, obviously they have, but even then, you know, if we look at something like Sandy Hook, hey, we need chest seals more than we need tourniquets, you know. But if we're looking at kids, take a cat or softy wide, cinch it down. If it's still too big on the kid's arm or leg, then the good news is, hey, we can use hemostatic agents. We can wound pack. We can use a pressure bandage. A lot of companies are starting like H&H and PersisMed. They're starting to make these pressure. You take their, you know, the idea of their big pressure bandages and making using smaller materials and thinner that are making them really small for kiddos. You know, so that way school nurses can, you know, can get them and stockpile them and stuff. That's great. But as adults, I look at it and think, hey, great, now I got an EDC pressure bandage.
Right.
You know, that I carry, and some of these are really small. You know, H&H has got one. 1110's got a phenomenal one. 1110 gear. Their small miniature pressure bandage, I love. I mean, that thing is, you know, very well done, including the packaging. H&H has a mini compression gauze, bandage that's phenomenal. It's about the same dimensions, so it's. I always say, hey, well, too. I mean, if the kid's arm is that small, if we're talking infant, then hey, manual pressure can occlude that bleeding if we really need to. You know, and I always ask people like, hey, how big do you think your femoral artery is right now? Show me with your hand how, you know, giant do you think it is? And for those of you at home, you guys go ahead and hold up your hands and you guys show me right now on the show, Ashton and y'all, show me how big you think the artery really is. Yeah, about your little finger. Okay. And that's on us as big grown adults. Now imagine what it is then on a kid. You tell me you can't sit there manually and squeeze that arm if you absolutely need to, or that leg. Now, granted, you can keep holding it, and it's not making a tourniquet-like effect. I'm not saying that. But if I can take a small one of these EDC pressure bandages and use those, I'll probably control that bleeder pretty well. But then again, we're not seeing kids who aren't getting that kind of injury. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Again, it ain't the odds, it's the stakes. You know, my kid almost got eaten by a bear, for goodness sake, when he was 7 months old. So don't tell me that I don't need one,
So it's that peanut butter scented diaper cream.
Dude, the Boudreaux's butt paste is real, dude. I bought.
Oh God, yes.
That stuff, and yes, ask me how we know that it tastes like peanut butter. You change a diaper at 4 a.m. after not sleeping for 3 days, and it'll end up in your mouth one way or another.
Yeah.
Side note for that happened to. You're right.
No, side note for the either soon to be or future parents that might be listening to this. Boudreaux's butt paste
is
the best cream for diaper rash that you could ever use for a kid.
Yep.
Everyone swears by Desitin.
Nope.
Try putting it on and tell me you want your kid going through that.
Nope. I bought 3 of those big jars of it.
Burns like all hell.
Yep. And
no, man, you gotta use.
We don't even carry the little tubes anymore. No. We're beyond that.
We use bag balm, man.
Mm-hmm.
Bag balm. It's for the cow's teats for the udders. It doesn't hurt. It works good. But
we're talking about children's genitalia and buttocks, and you're over there talking about cows.
Yeah.
Udders.
Butts.
Pretty sure cows' udders a little tougher skin than my kid's rear end.
I'm telling you, bag balm.
Wait till he gets through those terrible twos. We'll see.
Yeah, that's right. We'll think there's 3. I'm going to be through a story.
Bag balm.
Hey, when you get look, the farmer thing, you use the same stuff for a lot of different things. That's all.
Like gun oil, right, Ashton?
Exactly.
Oh my God!
If there's anybody that knows about lube,
it's Ashton. Anybody knows about cows?
Don't believe us.
Ashton
you should go back through our archives.
That's his call sign tonight. Is going to be cow udder.
I like it.
I'm sure I'll never hear that again, will I?
Chafed cow udders.
Yes.
But yeah, so the where were we? Boudreaux's butt paste. Get your training tourniquet. Get one, and don't use your real world tourniquet for training. Don't you can get your real world tourniquet, open it up, and look at it, and maybe try it, up to 10 times, and you'll be fine. But just don't do any really heavy duty training with it. Get a trainer eventually. It's like any firearms owner. You need to own a blue gun, the same make and model of what carry gun you carry for training classes and combatives and force on force and stuff, and practicing. It just makes sense to. You start training enough, you start collecting those trainers.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Caleb, you probably can't see it on here, and especially if you're listening to this later, but you can see how this training tourniquet is no longer in the correct form anymore. You've got part of the layers folded over in amongst themselves. They're twisted up and out of shape. The layers that are in between that actually do the constriction or apply the pressure or whatever technical medical term that is. I mean, this thing just kind of fails to this position right here because it's been in and out of it so many times, right?
Sure.
And if you do that with your regular stuff, the material's already been past its yield and all that kind of thing. Go.
Yeah, well, what you can do is you take some of that cow udder paste you were talking about and rub it on there, and it'll clear it right up. No,
exactly.
What you're talking about there, guys, since those of you on the podcast listening, he's holding up his cat, his trainer cat, and right there at the windlass, where those nylon webbings are sewn through it, and they get twisted, and they'll stay twisted, and they'll get stretched out, and that's what makes the cat so awesome is that it's got like 3 layers of it over there, and one of those layers is in there inside. And it's all twisted up and it just kind of stays. It's nylon. What does that mean? It's plastic material to a degree. Now, I'm not downgrading the cat. I'm just saying that when you start stretching that stuff up, it's going to, it stays that way. It doesn't retain its shape permanently. Okay, it's not steel or titanium. Okay, same thing with my softy wides. I will say that my softy wides seem to last longer in training scenarios and just ever use and abuse versus the cats. But what does that mean? Like, okay, well, if you guys are going to go out and start your own training business, there's a pearl of wisdom for you. Short of that, if you carry cats, get a trainer cat, dude, and beat the hell out of it and train with it. And then when it wears out, fine. But that's hard use training, guys, by the way, I'm talking about. So the cat and the softy wider, they both held up pretty well for what they are.
Outstanding. So one final specific technical medical question, and then we'll move to wrap it up. Snake bites. You're very.
I'm sorry, what?
Snake bites.
Safe light?
No, snake bites.
Oh, snake. Okay. You guys are sitting with your two little fingers acting like claws or something. I'm like, what the hell are they talking? This must be a northern thing. I don't know what snake light is.
Behind you.
Yeah.
It's in your boot. It's in your boot.
That's funny. And I hate snakes. There's only 3 things in this world I'm scared to death of. Snakes being one of them. Yeah, snake bites. So snake bites, right? The good news is, well, kind of the bad news. Here in North America, we're starting to see more of an influx of different venomous snakes. It used to be like only a handful that were native to the North American continent. But now with everybody importing them and growing them, there's, all sorts of different types, right? In Dallas, when I was in high school, the biggest news, for the whole, fall semester was in Dallas apartment complex had this king cobra loose, roaming around inside the apartment complex and the building in between the walls. And that was, to us, we thought that was funny. We're like, what an idiot. Lost his king cobra, got loose. What an idiot, and so they eventually found it. But can you imagine? No. So with snake bites, a couple things, and this information does change because everybody's got their kind of different opinions, and everybody's got different research on it and papers and stuff. I actually consulted with a colleague, the guys out there at TACMed Australia, a couple years back, and they've got a great company. So for anybody listening that's going to be in Australia, go buy their kits, go take their classes. Highly recommend them. They're really cool dudes. Hit them up on social media, give them some love. Tell them I sent you. But super, super cool cats there. And by God, if anybody knows anything about snake bites, it's those guys, because out of all the however many deadly species, venomous species that are on the planet, they have almost all of them. And they said what they recommend for all their training and studies is they said treat them almost like a fracture, like a broken bone. You don't want to suck any of the poison out. You want to add ice. You want to keep the patient calm and cool and collective as best you can. But then you basically immobilize the bite zone or bite area. So if it's the back of your hand, it tags you in the back of the hand. That wrist and your elbow, probably immobilize that. So splint it. It may be some bleeding, 1 or 2, both, but we're talking droplets. If it's something that latches on like a constrictor or something that keeps biting you and stuff, you may get some abrasion type bites and stuff that it keeps trying to get a better bite or what, maybe. I don't know. I'm not a snake expert. I will say that after being stationed in Fort Polk, Louisiana, we certainly got, snakes were a thing. So we saw, what we were told is hey, some of the younger ones, the smaller ones, small rattlesnakes, the younger ones, well, when they bite you, there's 2 types of bites, whether it's a wet bite or a dry bite, meaning did they did they pump you full of venom or did they not? Now we're going to treat the bite the same way because there's no way to know at this point out in the field with us at the initial responder. So we're going to, make sure the scene's safe. Make sure that the snake is no longer a threat, however you'd interpret that. Okay. If that means you've nuked it from orbit, so be it. Then it may be safe then. But they say that snakes are more scared of you than they are of them. I doubt that with me. I've actually eaten pit viper. I've got my water moccasin sitting up there that I've eaten here.
No. No,
That's
oh God.
you can see that. That's the snake. See, that's on my pointing stick. But some Air Force steer instructors hooked me up last year and taught me how to kill a snake, skin it, and eat it, and make it delicious. It tastes like chicken. Garlic is the key when you're eating pit viper. Add powdered garlic, just in case everybody's wondering. But snake bites, so you treat them like they're a wet bite. The young adolescent snakes with venom snakes will usually, if they do, they'll give you all the venom they got because they're like, hey, piss off, go away, I don't like you. The more adult ones, like the 6 foot size, the big adult rattlesnakes or venom pit vipers, they may give you a dry bite. They just want you to go away. Venom is used for a snake to eat, for food, not as a defense mechanism. Now, it just happens to double up as a defense mechanism, but for the most part, they only produce so much venom so often. So they know if they burn it up trying to tell everybody to piss off and stay away from them, they lose it and they're going to get hungry, right? Or they have to hunt more, and it's more difficult. They have to do more effort to hunt. So it's not just, hey, tag it and let the venom do its work and the rat dies off a few feet away and it can slither over there and slowly digest it and have a nice meal. And now has to tag it and wrap it up and tag it 2 or 3 times, maybe. I don't know. However, the snake without venom hunts, so immobilize it, keep them calm, collective, get to the ER. It's definitely 911 time. Don't save the snake. Don't chop its head off and think it's dead. The snakes that we were hunting, not hunting, but we were using as training aids. After we dispatched them and after we cut their heads off, the head still sat there and was able to produce the fangs and expose those and sit there and move its mouth. The body itself kept twirling around, and the guy, one of the seer instructors, was like, here, Doc, you want to put that in your cargo pocket for us so we can carry it back to camp. And I'm like, there is no way you're going to get that in my cargo pocket, I assure you. That is not going in my cargo. It's just sitting there, the body's just twirling around.
I'm not going to be old Yeller. I'm not going to be old Yeller.
Yeah. And they were like, well, come on, just put it in your cargo pocket, man. Don't be such a, such a wimp about it. And I was like, you can call me whatever you want, but none of you are getting close to me with that and putting it in my cargo pocket. I promise you. Okay. But it was really cool learning about them, and it kind of debunked a lot of myths with them. Yeah, with the snake bites, you treat it like any other medical emergency. Call 911. Make sure the scene's safe. Make sure the snake is away. Some snakes are rather territorial. So like cottonmouths, water moccasins, they'll actually kind of like, hey, you're too close, and you're in my zip code. Go away. So go away. Don't hang around them. But for the most part, yeah, leave the snakes alone. They'll leave you alone. That's definitely been my experience. By the time we're walking out in the woods and the swamps, by the time the second guy gets up there to look for it, it's already hightailed it. We can't ever get a photo or mess with it. So, yeah, treat it, immobilize it. Don't worry about ice. Don't try to get the Sawyer kits to suck out the poison. No. And transport in the hospital as quickly as possible.
What he didn't say was to apply a tourniquet to the limb to stop it.
No, even to a tourniquet-like effect. And I asked the guys about that, and they said, yeah, the reason why people are saying to stop doing that is because it's rather subjective what a tourniquet-like effect means, what that phrase means. So it's either too little and it's not doing any good, or it's too much and it's causing some other problems, or it's, I've read one study that said, hey, it isolates that poison, the venom, so it, instead of dispersing it, and all sorts of craziness. But for the most part, immobilize the site and those joints near it, and get to the hospital.
Outstanding. Well,
see, Kent. Now you have words of wisdom for when you come back down, and we go back to Mom and Dad's ranch, and I remind you that it's a rattlesnake breeding ground.
I love you, but I'm not going to your rattlesnake camp.
I don't want to go to your rattlesnake farm either.
We were notified of that by our local game warden. He goes, "Oh, you guys live there now, huh? Yeah, it's a rattlesnake breeding ground, right?" Like, shit.
Well, what do you like?
I'll bring the garlic powder.
Yeah, no, that's what those tier instructors did. So I asked them, so what do you got? Salt and pepper shakers there? And they're like, no, put garlic powder in here. You can eat anything with garlic powder. salt and pepper only take you so far.
This is true.
So I didn't eat the scorpion. They wanted to get me to eat scorpion. I wouldn't eat scorpion. I had a grasshopper. It tastes like grass. But anyways, that's a whole other show.
So speaking of a whole nother show, as my diligent partner so eloquently texted me, we gotta have you back, bro, because we could do this forever. Is apparent. With that being said, we're coming up on a little bit of a time thing here. I did get some messages from people asking, "Is this guy coming for class?" Yes, y'all were a little late to the party, but October 3rd and October 4th, there are 2 classes that Ashton and myself and Caleb and the show, and we've shared that stuff all over social, and those 2 Eventbrite links will be in the description of this year's podcast. So please come to class so that you can learn all this good stuff. So at least a couple people are interested, which is always good. And I know Zach from the Apache crew and I are looking forward to taking your class, man. So it's going to be awesome. That being said, why don't you take the opportunity, both of you dudes, Ashton and you, do your plugs and your shout outs and your sponsor reads and whatever it is that you need to say to pay the bills on here, please.
Well, one of the Ashton, if I could real quick, we just found out today we did get a sponsor for both of those classes, so lunch is now taken care of for students for both days, and that's very gracious, and that has been done by Dark Star Gear. So. Dark Star Gear, you guys go to their website, go to their social medias. If you're listening, please show them some love. It was very humbling when Ashton called and said, "Hey, we just got a sponsor for lunch." So now we can actually do a working lunch and do kind of a Q&A, informal Q&A while we're all sitting there at lunch. We don't have to worry about going out and trying to get in line for food or anything and bringing it back. We get more time to train. And so that's pretty huge of Dark Star Gear. They make some like Ashton's shirt there. Yeah, and they happen to make some pretty good holsters. What do I know about shooting? I recommend only 3 holster companies in the world for concealed carry, and Dark Star Gear is one of them. So I really appreciate everybody over at Dark Star Gear for buying everybody lunch for both classes, for range response and for TACMED EDC. Ashton, go ahead though.
No, that was great. Yeah, Tom stepped up. He's really disappointed. He's going to be out of town that weekend. He and I have been talking about this for a long time. As I mentioned earlier, I've been trying to get Caleb up here for a very long time, and we finally got this landed. And he was pretty disappointed, but he's thrilled. He's going to be able to at least be there in spirit and be able to facilitate hooking up the folks that come to that class. As far as what I have coming up, next thing I have 2 weekends in a row off, which I'm pretty excited about. But next thing I have in August, I'll be helping Tom Givens run his instructor development course out east of Pittsburgh here later this month. I'll be down at the FBF training doing shotgun skills and home defense shotgun with Tim Chandler and TNA show down there in Northern Virginia, under the FBF training banner, of course. And then in November, I'll be down there for 2 days doing performance pistol at the FBF training range. That's obviously a 360 performance shooting class, and Tim won't be able to stay away from that either. So he'll be there for that, and we'll be continuing to put that show on and doing those things and hopefully helping people out a little bit.
Very, very cool. So GreenMountainDefense.com/training, guys. A few slots are open for this coming weekend's CTW Essentials. So if you want to learn how to pistol gooder, you should probably come do that. I'm very excited to have, I won't say their age, but I've got a husband and wife coming to this class who are going to be the oldest human beings I've ever trained. So that's going to be pretty cool. And they're coming to this just like everybody else is coming to this because the world's gone mad and they're scared, right? And as much as I hate to have people come to us out of a fear-based motivation, I'd rather them have logically over time made the choice. You know, if you're hearing from us, man, we're here to help you. This is not the time for folks in the firearms industry to sit here and thumb our noses and say, "Told you so. We've known this all along. You should have been on the banner years ago," et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, go see Ashton, go see Phil, just come see myself. Just here, like hyper local PA wise. And if you're somewhere in the ether and you're looking for help, you know, get on the PNS training group and find somebody, primary and secondary, find somebody recommended by those guys. Email us. I mean, we'll do what we can to make sure that you find some quality information, just like medical. Hell, as a matter of fact, go back through the archives of this podcast, and there's been a ton of very quality people on here. Maybe one of them is going to be close to you. That's the best I can say for you. But don't be discouraged. If you were previously of the mindset that you know, guns equal bad, and you know, we don't need that lifestyle, and now you're coming to it because of realization. We can put our pride away and just both be people, and we can bring you guys out. So don't feel like you're going to get, you know, beat with a Gadsden flag for a weekend. Because I promise I beat everybody with a Gadsden flag, regardless of whether they agree with me before they show up or not. But no, seriously, please, you know, you guys got to come out to training. So don't let your previous whatever social or political viewpoints keep you from getting good information and good knowledge. That's all I would have to say. And other than that, you know, TJ, you want to do our sponsor reads for Rats tourniquets and Boba's holsters and.
Well, sadly, the podcast isn't doing so well. We get TARS tourniquets and Flobus holsters.
Right.
So we get those too. So I mean, hey, you get what you get, right? So either way, Kent, great show as always, buddy. Caleb and Ashton, thank you guys for coming on the show. Ashton, apparently you haven't learned your lesson yet, but both of you are friends of the show, and we invite you back here in the near future. We'd love to continue this conversation and continue to drive down the snake den that is medical equipment. So with that, everybody, please be sure to follow us on social media. Caleb, Lone Star Medics, Ashton at 360 Performs, Ken at Green Mountain Defense, and I, of course, am the Lead Sling'N Ginger. We wouldn't be where we are or able to support the show without our affiliates. So you're going to buy gun stuff anyway, so why not support the channel and the show at the same time? You can find all of our affiliations at greenmountaindefense.com/affiliates-links. Follow those links and use those for your next purchase. Of course, we want to give a shout out to Right On Optics, where all your fine optics products are made. Variable power optics, low variable power, binoculars, red dots, you name it, they've got it. You can check them out at rightonoptics.com. Also available for purchase through many of our affiliate links. Of course, while we were talking about medical equipment, we would be remiss if we did not mention our friend Carrie Davis with Dark Angel Medical. Code BB15 will get you 15% off at checkout. We get nothing for that, just showing Carrie some love. Be sure to mention the Sling'N Led podcast sent you in your comments when you place your order. That's it for this week, folks. We love you all. Take care of each other. Until we see each other again, get out and shoot.